Okay, I think that's enough intro music. It has been a while since I've done one of these streams, so fair warning as we get started here. This is actually going to be completely unorganized because it's an impromptu stream. I'm not sure how long it's going to go for. That aside, I do have some things that I want to bring up. I think I'll just share. I think I'll just share my Twitter screen. That probably would be the best way to do it. Let me see if I can have the browser all set up to work properly. I know, tech problems while going live. Okay, so I may forget some of the stuff I intended to address, but let's see what happens. So one of the biggest things that has happened in the last few days is a Dragon Quest interview from Tokyo Game Show 2024. Before I get into that, let me just move a window over here that you can't see, but it doesn't matter because that's not important. I was moving the chat over. Anyway, we're back at it. So I think it's cool that the Restream bot is now actually showing chats from Twitter, which is nice. Let me make sure I turn on live chat so I can see everybody's messages. Alright, so the Dragon Quest thing. Yuji Horii and Kazuhiko Torishima were interviewed, and they brought up the censorship regarding Dragon Quest III HD 2D. Also, the change from male and female to type A and B. And to nobody's surprise, the creator of the game doesn't like the fact that it was censored. I mean, who would have guessed? Who would have been surprised to learn that the guy who made the Dragon Quest games, the way he wanted to make them, wouldn't appreciate seeing them censored? My mind was blown. I don't know. Nebulala, it might be a corny thing to say, but I appreciate sharing your thoughts on these kind of things. Thank you very much. I appreciate anybody who listens, agree or disagree. You know, just the fact that people show up is nice enough. So, there were some people that brought this up, and a lot of it, you know, they had good points regarding being against the censorship and, you know, pointing out what was said. Unfortunately, some people misattributed Torishima's words to Yuji Horii's words. And so, of course, you know, I don't expect people to know, you know, every developer's face and all that. There's plenty I don't know. I'm not really much of a guy who follows, you know, specific developers. It's more just like, okay, I happen to like this game, and maybe sometimes it's the same developer behind them, maybe not. I don't really get too involved in the aspect of personalities. But if you're going to put information out there and talk about these topics, it's really important to get these things right. Not just because of how the opposition will frame it if you get it wrong, because, you know, the whole optics thing is a topic we'll get into later, since I've been experiencing a little bit of policing in that area. But just because it's important to be accurate, okay? The truth is important. I understand people aren't doing it intentionally. I understand not everybody knows faces. But if you're going to do that, please make sure that you're getting it correct on who said what. You know, obviously they were both there and they both said these things. You can maybe infer that they have a similar mindset. Nonetheless, the quotes should be attributed properly instead of reversed. So that's that criticism out of the way. Not the biggest of deals, but like I said, still important not to just see information and run with it. Double check your stuff before you put it out there. So they talked about age ratings. You know, if you expose too much skin, you can't have the proper rating or whatever. Things like that. Yuji Horii specifically said, in Dragon Quest, you used to be able to choose between a male and female protagonist, but now you can't choose between a man and a woman anymore. We have to call them Type 1 and 2. I truly wonder who is even complaining about this. That's what I wonder. I mean, that's what everybody has been wondering from the start. Who is this for? Now, obviously, the answer is one that a lot of people don't like. It's obviously for mentally unstable people and their so-called allies who somehow believe that the label of male and female in and of themselves is offensive because it's not quote-unquote inclusive enough. And so they see fit to change the labels, make them vague. That way somebody can feel included by not having an appearance specifically labeled, which is ridiculous because at the end of the day, we all know, just from looking at these characters, that they are male and female, because that's what they were always intended to be. I mean, you look back at Akira Toriyama's official artwork, and he even has the symbols of male and female next to the character designs. Like, everybody knows this. I mean, look, it's just obvious on a base level. You don't even need the labels. Now, some people will then turn that argument and say, well, you're saying it's obvious anyway, so why do we even need to call them male and female? Well, let me tell you why. It's because the truth matters. Once again, accuracy matters. And the reason these people don't care about accuracy is because they never have in any capacity. It's all based on whatever they like in the moment. So when this whole thing first started regarding the Dragon Quest stuff, whether it be the localization, whether it be the censorship, we always get the same narrative on all these different games, regardless of what game it is, regardless of what anime or other various pieces of Japanese media. It's always the same narrative. It's always, well, the creators approved it, it makes it better, yada yada. Well, now we have official word, not that we needed it, because I really don't think you do need official word that the creator wouldn't like censorship of their own work. But for the people that need everything spelled out for them, now that we have word from the creators, now suddenly the creator's word isn't good enough. The authority no longer matters. Because it's all false. It's all made up. They don't actually care about the creators. They don't actually care about the integrity of the work. They have a preference, so they find a way to justify it, and then they run with it. And when that turns out to be wrong, well, let the coping begin. I can take you and show you some of the reactions that I have documented here. Let me find... Where's that one guy? See, this is why I should have pulled up some posts beforehand, but I just had the idea to go live and I wasn't really planning anything at all. I believe... Okay, here it is. Never mind. I was getting it wrong just because it was covered up. So, I encountered this guy before. I'm now blocked by him because, well, you know, difference of opinion will do that to you on Twitter. So he's... Gemuki Draws Near is one of the most obnoxious people on the entire internet. He lies all the time about Dragon Quest. He claims to have more knowledge than everybody put together who disagrees with him. He was there from the start, apparently. So, his post says, Gooners taking this as holy proof that they were right to be mad about Type A/B stuff and design changes. LMAO. You can feel the seethe in that LMAO, by the way. If anything, this proves that unlike them, Hori as well as Torishima don't spend their days crying about it because they ultimately understand why it is necessary. This is such a dishonest interpretation. And that's what my post here is all about. I won't read it to you because... Well, if you're following me, you've probably already seen it. And, you know, Lord knows I'm probably going to end up repeating myself here. Maybe not in the same words, but, you know, same idea. So I'll localize my own post for you. My issue here is, you know, like I said, it's the appeal to authority, and then it's switching that up when it no longer matters. Not to mention just the complete disingenuous interpretation of this interview. There is no way... There's just no way you can listen to this or read the subtitles or whatever you got to do to understand it. There's no way you can come to this conclusion if you're being honest. This is somebody that is performing Olympic tier mental gymnastics in order to justify why at the end of the day they're still right. Okay, two guys begrudgingly going along with changes, regardless of what we think of that, is not the same as understanding why it's necessary or, you know, endorsing it in any way. The reason they spoke up is obviously because they don't like it. They're not happy with it. Now, some people say, well, you know, well, they agreed to it. Why would they go along with it? All right, I mean, that's kind of how the business unfortunately works. They probably don't have that kind of say, even though I personally think they should try, you know, to use their veteran industry weight to try to get things happening. But It's not that easy. So, the thing is... Oh, wait, sorry. What do we have here? My question is, who is forcing this Type 1 and 2 stuff specifically? This industry is wide. After all, it happened at the same time. It must come from something more centralized than a Western branch. Well, I think they're being hit on multiple fronts because if you look at all these companies, they all follow the same narrative. They all have the same DEI, ESG commitments. So I don't know if it's just one source. I think it's more likely that it's kind of just the general direction that the industry is taking, and everybody's kind of following suit. But to get back to what I was saying about them expressing, their disdain with this choice, I don't think if they were lying about this or if they were, fine with it, I don't think they would have said anything in the first place in the interview. At least nothing this direct. Because from a business perspective, there is zero benefit for them to do this. If anything, they might be reprimanded for doing it. I don't know how far and wide this interview is going to spread. It seems like it's getting out there quite a bit. So we'll see if there's ever any information about what happens. I mean, it could very well just be that they're quietly reprimanded within the company and we never know anything about it. Or nothing could happen. I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is, they wouldn't have said anything in this interview regarding censorship or the Type A/B stuff if it wasn't an issue from their perspective. And so many guys like this are just lying and, bending over backwards to come up with all these excuses. We've also got some crazy takes from a Reddit thread, which is, it's basically a collection of the same type of stuff where if they find out one creator doesn't align with their worldview, well, now they're just an evil bigot. They gotta go. I didn't really put these in any particular order. The beginning of the thread was just posting the interview, and then these posts are reactions to it. So we have, oh no, poor Japan, defenseless against Western colonizers. Oh, please. Colonization is when you can't have scantily clad minors in your video game, and the more clothes they're wearing, the more colonialist it is. I'm not sure where this minor narrative is coming from, especially in regards to Dragon Quest, because as far as I know, the character class templates were never given specific ages, and the characters look completely adult. I don't even think you could make the lolly argument here. Or, it's a 9,000-year-old dragon, or whatever stupid manipulative stuff they do to try to turn this into a pedo situation. But of course, any discussion on the internet where people disagree, inevitably somebody's going to get called a pedophile in the end. That's just how it goes. But completely dishonest in this case, because there are no scantily clad minors, and even if there were, let's be real, they're drawings. It's fiction. It's not even that type of game in the first place. It's Dragon Quest. So here's a great one. Reminder to everyone that also no other game developer has reported this to be a thing. So you either take this at face value and believe that it's just Square Enix being targeted, or understand that they were just talking nonsense / things got lost in translation. So now suddenly people care about the people who defending localization incessantly care very deeply about things being lost in translation. First of all, that's not the case. From what I have gathered, the interview is accurate. Even people who disagree with the interview have said that it's accurate. So I think that's a very good indicator that it is. If you have people on, both sides, my favorite phrase lately, both sides, that's sarcasm, by the way, for the autists in the audience. This is a complete lie, okay? We have plenty of confirmation from other sources. I remember when the whole localization at the source discourse started, due to, I think it was Yakuza and maybe Persona, where they were talking about how they made changes because of the way things were viewed in the West. So to claim that no other game developers are saying anything about this is just complete nonsense. Now, maybe not many have openly complained, but they've definitely put the information out there that these changes are due to Western influence. And by the way, the very people saying it doesn't exist here are the same ones who often celebrate these changes. So, it's once again a case of, oh, it's not happening, but simultaneously, it's a very, very good thing that it is. Trademark. Oh, man. They even called the sorceress from Dragon's Crown a lolly, so his usual words just don't have any meaning to them. That's the most insane take I have seen. Come on, that is a grown woman in more ways than one, alright? Okay, I don't get it. DEI is just a Western thing, right? Does it need to get involved with non-Western countries? Now, this is just a person asking a question. You know who else is guilty of asking questions? Nazis. So we have a response here. DEI, as an industry term, is Western, I believe, but the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion are universal goals that a lot of people around the world are working towards improving. Okay, that's not true. Maybe there are individuals, anywhere in the world you can probably find individuals that have stupid beliefs. But to claim that, this is a global narrative that everybody is working towards is garbage. Every corporation, perhaps, because they're all under the same control, but definitely not people. It's not of our free will. It's completely forced. They're obviously easier or harder to implement or get broadly accepted depending on where in the world you are, but don't think that just because a country's culture is traditionally more conservative, that there's zero people living there that strive for a better future. And you see the way that ended off right there, where it's, oh, well, these people, their culture is not mine. Therefore, anyone working to change that is working for a better future. Even though we have not demonstrated that the future that we're working for is inherently better. Arguably, I would say it's worse for a variety of reasons. And just starting with entertainment. Entertainment is, I would say, maybe the mid to low tier. And I don't say that as a way to insult entertainment or its importance. It's obviously very important to us. Art is important. Enjoyment is important. So I'm not trying to downplay in that sense, but, the way these things are impacting academia, government, society as a whole, it's all these things put together. And entertainment is just one more vessel for them to push these messages. Moving on to the next screen. To be fair, I love these to be fair qualifiers because the only time I encounter to be fair is in response to a scenario where I'm already being fair. I know some people will say, well, it's just a figure of speech, but I don't know. Just a minor peeve. To be fair, I don't think creatives should have to do something they don't want to because of outsized forces telling them to do so. Well, okay, that's commendable, I suppose. And just slapping body type A/B labels on what was obviously designed as a male-female choice is one of the most annoyingly performative things I've seen in games lately. See, this is where my agreement starts to trail off. Because to me, this is just, well, real DEI hasn't been tried yet. They're just being performative. They don't actually care about inclusion. The problem here is caring about inclusion at all. Inclusion is an inherently ideological term at this point. There's no denying it. People have tried to argue with me on this, but I refuse to submit to their language. I refuse to use inclusion because they're trying to say a completely different thing than you're trying to say when you use the term. Inclusion to them just means less white people, less straight people, less normality, more degeneracy, more subversion, more of their ideology. That's all it means. It's not inclusion of everybody is welcome. Or it's not just merely the existence of different types of characters as they try to frame it. That's just their way to get you to submit to using their terminology. So, you'll say something like, well, I have no problem with inclusion because, I don't mind when there's different characters in video games. Nobody minds that. Nobody in all of the decades that we've been playing video games has ever truly minded when there were just happen to be a variety of characters. What they're imposing is completely different. They're not imposing the cast of Final Fantasy VI, That's a wide cast of varying characters. They're not imposing the cast of Final Fantasy VII, It's the blue hair, disabled, trans black, all this crazy stuff that rarely, if ever, appears in actual society, and they want to make it as though it's the majority demographic of the world. So no, I don't support inclusion, I don't believe in inclusion, I don't think it has any place in video games or any other fiction, because it's an imposition on the creator to check boxes, that, they have to do this, or it's an inherently bad piece of work. No, they don't have to do jack. Reject it completely. That's the way I feel about it. I don't know, other people can do what they want, but I think when you start to use their terminology, you're just losing. Because now you're arguing about what type of inclusion. No, you just need to reject the premise. You don't need inclusion. It's a video game. What you need is what the creator wanted to make in the most honest way possible. FF6 was so glitched and buggy anyway on modern games. Man, I mean, I'm definitely saving that one for a post, but I might touch on that one a little bit too, just because that was one of the most ridiculous things I've seen lately. To get through this post, that said, these two, referring to the creators in the interview, still sound like douchebags, and I won't be buying their games because of that. I just think they should have the right to make it the way they want. I'd be perfectly fine and glad if people like this decided to not purchase these games. Also, it's ridiculous that gamers are acting like the opinion of two old men is representative of every creator in Japan, and somehow proves the West is forcing their beliefs upon Japan. Well, first of all, I don't think many, if anyone, is actually saying that they're representative of the entirety of Japan, especially because I myself have specifically pointed to Japanese universities, Japanese companies, Japanese creators who are falling into the DEI nonsensical narrative. So I definitely do believe it's Western influence, because there's no way it's a coincidence that everyone the world over just so happens to be suddenly using the same terminology and making the same commitments, but they just want you to somehow believe that this is a conspiracy. We can't observe patterns with our own, eyes and reason. It's crazy. Also, it's ridiculous. Oh yeah, sorry, went there already. You can't even say these two are representative of their whole team. I agree with that part completely. Obviously not. That's how we got to where we are. So, here's a reply. I like that this person's tag is the gay agenda. Everyone who falls on that line, the side of the line, is so smug about the whole gay agenda thing, but then when you bring it up as though it's a negative, suddenly it doesn't exist anymore. Gotta love that. It's like I said earlier, another example of it's not happening, but good that it is. The annoying part is that there's no regulatory body or activist group that could force them to do that. They're free to have sexualized characters as long as the game is rated appropriately, and there's no mandate to add body type. Well, first of all, this doesn't make sense. There's no regulatory body. So these guys were putting all the blame on Zero, okay? Completely Zero, and now all of a sudden there's no regulatory body that does this. Are you kidding? Their own statement contradicts this when they say they're free to have sexualized characters as long as the game is rated appropriately. And then the body type situation, I agree there doesn't seem to be an official mandate. But does that mean that there's no covert idea that you have to do this? Why would he say it? Why would he just lie about it? Like I said, there is no benefit for the creator to come out and say this from a business standpoint. None. Because if he expresses that he's unhappy with the censorship and changes to his own game, that could very well inspire certain people not to buy it. He could be damaging the sales by saying these things and framing it as a bad thing. It's not exactly good PR. Games are still releasing today with male, female, and have 0 issues. I agree they have 0 issues, but there are a lot of people pushing for these changes, even retroactively. What was it just not too long ago? We had Terraria removing gender. After being out for so long, they felt the need to update this. And they lied and claimed that they didn't remove this, despite the fact that I demonstrated it with images. And the creator of the game, I think it was the creator of the game that quote tweeted me and still continued to lie about this. Do you think that's why Hori said 12 would be darker? Because then it will probably be rated B and it can be more without covering up. You know what? That could actually be the case. That would be interesting. If that is his stance, though, I do wish that they would have been able to push this one up. But then again, you know, like I said, there's no... like this person said, too, 0 wouldn't have an impact on male or female labeling. 0 wouldn't have an impact on editing out the boss troll's lips. So it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. There's something else at play here, and we all know what it is. The people that are against it know what it is. The people who are in favor of it and lying, saying it doesn't exist, know what it is. The only outside force that could push them to do this was their own publisher, Square Enix, but they can't talk shit about them, so it's easier to blame the general Western audience. Okay, well, you know what? I don't doubt that Square Enix plays some part in this, thanks to their commitment on their own website, proclaiming, you know, DEI and ESG compliance. So, yeah, like I said, it's multiple sources, and perhaps for slightly different reasons, but in the end, it's all under the same umbrella. And you can't simultaneously think it's great and then deny it. I mean, you can, but you just look like a moron. All right, moving on, I believe, to the last two, I suppose. Here's a great username that really is representative of this. Gay Demon Guy. No way, 70-year-old Japanese men talking about the good old days where they could sexualize underage girls in their games? I would have never seen it coming. Again, where? Where did this happen in Dragon Quest? Somebody even comes in and says Dragon Quest is like the least pedo game out there. What the fuck are you talking about? You'll notice that the replies that are usually in favor are highly upvoted, in favor of the narrative, I should say, and then the very few that are speaking back are just downvoted. They have not sexualized any underage girls, and these men are the renowned grandfathers of JRPGs. Yeah. All right, we're almost through these. So here we go. This was somebody confirming the translations are correct. I am Japanese. Believe it or not, this culture war in the U.S. is not normal. In Asia, it is ridiculous. Well, who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? And you know, I really despise the culture war term because it's usually used as a pejorative, where it's like somebody is expressing genuine concerns regarding this stuff, and then they just try to dismiss it by like, oh, well, you're just obsessed with the culture war. Which, by the way, if there is a quote-unquote culture war, it's these people who are pushing it. It's these people who want everything to change to fit their narrative. So once again, you know, they start the fight, and then they blame people who are responding to what they've started as the cause. Nobody would be discussing this if Dragon Quest III was just remade from the ground up the way that it was intended to be since the Famicom version. Nobody. Nobody has ever been offended by Dragon Quest III. I mean, perhaps, maybe with the exception of disliking the way that DQ games have been treated in the West over the years, which I really wouldn't attribute to personal offense so much as to wanting things to be the way they were intended to be. So here's a great one. Seems to be mostly right. I'm not going to watch it again because having to listen to two 70-plus old dudes ramble on about the good old days of not having to care about offending people makes my brain hurt. No, we need to go back to the good old days of not caring about offending people, because now people care way too much to the point of absurdity. If you can't have a video game where you can clearly label obvious males and females as such, you have gone way overboard. You were beyond, okay? You're somewhere out there beyond the stars. The point about the change in costumes is Hori stating the obvious, that too much exposure will cause the rating to increase, without stating where this pressure is coming from. Then Torishima launches into a rant about compliance. The guy expresses this so calmly. to frame it as launching into a rant is wild. I please go watch the video if you haven't seen it. It's not like he's sitting there screaming about it. He just calmly states this stuff. And just, in a cool, collected, and assertive manner. Of course they don't like that. Let's see. There might be some deceptive editing because the clip ends rather suddenly. Also, it's clear this interview was set up to pander to Japanese chuds. Alright, this is from what I believe is like a 6-hour video. I don't know how long exactly they sat down and talked with these two specific people, but the video itself that it comes from is like 6 hours long. There's no editing. I believe it was a live stream. I could be mistaken on that. But it wasn't edited. There's no cuts or anything. The clip that was posted was short, so obviously it's edited in the sense that they captured the part of the interview that addressed these standards. But other than that, there's no thing. And I'm really tired of the term chud. It's so stupid. Nobody cares if you call someone a chud. Nobody cares. It's a dumb, infantile, worthless insult that nobody cares about. In fact, it is the ultimate term of projection, because every single person that has ever called me that, and I've looked at their profile and they've had a picture of themselves up, they are the poster boy for the terminology. Can't say that I'm too surprised about Hori having shitty opinions, considering that he worked with Koichi Sugiyama for around 40 years, and would probably still be working with Sugiyama if he hadn't died. Well, yeah, because the guy makes good music. He's not there for politics. He's not there for ideological nonsense. He was helping make games. He was producing a wonderful soundtrack for an awesome game series. Sugiyama was known for denying Japanese war crimes. I love this. I love that this is what he was supposedly known for. Thinking that there was a civil war between Japanese and anti-Japanese, and sharing views with Mio Sugita, who said there was no need for LGBT education in Japanese schools. There isn't. That queer couples not having kids is a problem. Wait, what? Queer couples not having kids is a problem. I think... Oh, so maybe in the sense that he was saying that their relationships are a problem because they can't reproduce. Either that, or this person misspoke and put a not when he supposedly said that if they have kids, it is a problem, like adoption or something. I don't know. That gender dysphoria is a psychological problem to be fixed. Yes, gender dysphoria is a psychological problem. Anybody who believes that there's something that they're not in reality is suffering from some sort of mental issue. And if it could be fixed, it should be fixed. As well as dismissing concerns about high suicide rates among the community. Now, I honestly don't know how much of these claims are true. Personally, I don't really care because I don't see any of them as, like, beyond the pale, crucify the guy. You know, I'm sure that makes me evil too, but whatever. But I've never seen... I guess what I'm saying is I've never seen an actual Japanese source for these things. It's always secondhand. It's like somebody links Wiki, or somebody links some dishonest game journalist article about it. Where did he say these things? What did he do? Where did you get these ideas from? I'm guessing there are grains of truth in here, but to what degree, I'm not sure. If anybody knows where a Japanese source is and what it says, do let me know, because I haven't seen it. So that may be most of the Dragon Quest stuff. Let me look through here. Here's a short little thing we can talk about. We've got the Lunar Remastered Collection, which is going to include Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue, which I believe will definitely be the PS1 or Saturn versions. Personally, I would have liked if they did Lunar Magic School, because that would have been nice since we never got it in the US. The Saturn remake of it, because I believe it started as a Game Gear game, and the Saturn version is a lot better because it has the, anime cutscenes and whatnot. Originally, he was just a nationalist, then it turned into that. Yeah, well, I guess you could infer that. Since he's a nationalist, he has all those other ideas. Why not, right? Especially considering they conflate nationalists with another N-word we all love. I meant Nazi, you racists. Okay, let's see. So, as people probably know who are familiar with the games, Working Designs localized these. I believe they did both the Sega CD and PlayStation versions. I never got around to playing the Sega CD versions, but I did play the PS1 versions, and I liked them very much as games. I don't like the silly localization edits. I don't like all the jokey crap they added, of course. Completely unnecessary. A lot of it takes you out of the experience. They've got American Express card references. They've got candy commercial references. Political references of the times. It's all... Some not of the times, I believe. I think they had a Clinton joke in there somewhere. I don't know if that was just the Sega CD or if that made it into the PlayStation as well. It's been a while since I played. But I remember a lot of the NPC dialogue was just completely made up. Anything that wasn't specifically like main story related was just a total rewrite. It was bad. It's like they just took the core of the script and then threw away everything else. I know in one of the games, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, where they turned a town into like a bunch of backhill rednecks that were into incest, because that's hilarious, apparently. I mean, look, if a creator actually wants to put something like that in their game, go ahead, but it's the adding it where it was never meant to be intended that is just so completely destructive and disrespectful. Is the PSP version any better? Did that get retranslated? It did get retranslated. I don't know who did it. I heard that it's better, but I've never got around to playing the PSP version myself, so I can't speak to its quality. I guess if it doesn't include a bunch of dumb jokes, then that's already an improvement. Honestly, I never played the PSP version because I didn't really like the look of it as much. I kind of really much prefer the simplistic, more 16-bit looking sprite type stuff. Okay, so yeah, that's coming out. Gung Ho is going to be handling it. They did Grandia HD collection, which I do like. Unfortunately, Grandia had kind of a corny localization back in the day too, so they didn't really do anything to fix that. I think they just straight up ported it. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the situation here. I'd love it if they did a retranslation, just because for the first time we're going to have Japanese audio, and so I've advocated for this many times before. I think if you're going to include Japanese audio, you definitely need to include an English option that more closely matches the audio. Because it just creates an unnecessary discrepancy that you can actually hear. Played the GBA version, don't recall. Yeah, I played a little bit of the GBA version. I actually own it, but I never finished it. I dropped it because I've just always preferred the PS1 games. Alright, so that's a little tidbit. Hopefully they'll do right by it. I'm once again, not sure what they're going for on translation there. It looks like they might just use the same one. Hope they don't, but we shall see. All right. What else did I have here? Oh, so here's something, I guess. It was a while ago, but I guess we'll bring it up anyway. Dragon Age, the Veilguard, a game I'm definitely not interested in, so take that as you will. But, man, the things that they are putting in this game are just... We have reached a level of enabling mental illness that really should not be possible. So they have a character customizer, which claims to be very, very inclusive. Now, you know what that means. That means pandering to delusions of modern social causes and not actually having a large variety of ways to create a character. So that means we've got our preferred pronouns, because you know how important that is. We also have the greatest so-called inclusion in a character creator ever. Top surgery scars. That's right. In your fantasy D&D type style world, you can have top surgery scars to show that you are a dedicated little gender dysphoric weirdo. I mean, this is... Let's see. Yep, top surgery scars. They're right at the bottom. You can turn them off and on. I wonder if they're going to have... You ever wonder if they're going to have bottom surgery scars? I mean, how can they do one without the other? Honestly, I think it's because... Well... You know what? They should actually have it the other way around, because to me, dudes LARPing is way more common than women. Now, some of these ladies are getting pretty messed up and, you know, mutilating themselves, but... Oh, man. Look, I just think back, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 15. If somebody gave you a time machine and you went back and you told these people, guys, video games in the future are going to have scars for transgender mutilation surgery, what do you think people would say? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many people would believe that. It just sounds so absurd. Apparently, this is following in the footsteps of The Sims, so that appears to be another game that panders to these delusions. Keep pandering to them as long as they get paid by companies like BlackRock and etc. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what makes it hard. That's what makes it hard to stop, is that, you know, the companies that are behind this are just insanely rich to the point that it is extremely difficult to hit them where it hurts. I don't know. Me personally, I don't understand the appeal of games like this. I'm not... Even when there's a character creator, I'm not really a self-insert guy. So, to me, it's always been a little bit weird. Like, okay, I understand taking some elements of yourself maybe and putting it into your character, but usually this type of creator is like, you just want to create something cool. You just want to create an ideal. Or maybe sometimes you go the opposite direction and you want to go a little ugly. Well, I guess you can do that. But the thing about this is, what in the world? Who would want this? It's crazy to me that people that claim that being reminded of what they were, they always say were, would somehow want to be reminded in the game. I mean, I thought the whole point was to be a man or a woman, and now all of a sudden we need to be reminded that we have a condition every 5 seconds. It's like no imagination. It's kind of sad. These people don't have the ability to think outside of themselves. I sincerely believe that now, just because of how many times I've seen these people preach about empathy, and yet seem to have no ability for any kind of abstract thought or any kind of ability to put themselves in another person's shoes. It's always, you need to validate me, you need to see me, I need to be heard. There's no imagination involved. They just can't fathom. They're in so deep that they can't fathom being something else. I don't know. I mean, look, I get the whole freedom of creativity thing, but I don't think it's normal or healthy to push this type of agenda and treat it as though it's the norm in any regard. And it's not organic. I mean, it's definitely not organic. There are very few people who genuinely want this. A lot of people either are just simply indifferent. A lot of people are afraid to say anything other than what's popular. A lot of people just want to feel like they're being supportive and being good people. But they don't really want top surgery scars in their game. Okay? This is one of the reasons why I've stopped, for the most part. Like, I still get into little back and forths once in a while. But this is one of the main reasons why I've really tried to stop getting in long, drawn-out discussions with a lot of these people. Because they're always being dishonest. They're always looking for ways to just get one over. They're not there for any sort of understanding. They just want to call you names. They just want to misrepresent your points. And, I do see some value sometimes in responding to it in the sense that onlookers can better understand these perspectives. But you get to a point where I'm not even somebody with tons and tons of followers, but I'm approaching 10,000. And, when a post takes off, you get a lot of people just responding with the same NPC takes. And I'm not going to sit there for hours on end replying to the same thing over and over again. So, it's not worth it. That's why a lot of the times I'll just try to, like, if they want to keep going, I'll be like, all right, so do you want to just come talk on stream? It's not because, look, in part, obviously, it's entertainment, okay? You have somebody on the show, you talk things out, you interview, whatever you want to do. It's in part entertainment. I'm not going to lie about that. The other part is the person has to speak to you directly. They can't speak past you. They can't, do this thing where they keep misrepresenting your point for updoots or whatever the hell you want to call it. By the way, I hate that term. I keep seeing people say it, and it just kind of drives me crazy. It's just a way to get them to speak with you directly, and like I said, in part entertainment. The other part is not wanting to go on about it for hours on end with somebody who ultimately is never going to see your point of view. I know that most minds won't be changed. It's more for the people that are listening in. I don't know how many fence sitters are actually going to come around. But on the off chance that somebody comes along that isn't really particularly into any of the dialogue. Because I think anybody that's mostly aware of this stuff, even if they say that they're more in the center, they mostly have a side when it comes down to it. And if not a side, just a stronger opinion than they're letting on. Because frankly, I don't really like the whole, both sides bad type discourse that have been going around. And that's because when I'm posting or when I'm talking about things, I'm not thinking about what my quote-unquote side would say. Like, I understand that there's people out there, obviously people are following me for a reason. So I have a group of people that generally agree with things that I say. That's fine. I appreciate any kind of, support or whatever you want to call it. So I'm not trying to downplay that. But ultimately, I'm here for expressing my view. How the side is going to see that view is not relevant to me. Because I have to be honest about my take on the situation. If people like it, okay. If they don't, they can tell me why as well. But I'm not some kind of representative. Nobody has elected me into a position. I'm not a movement. I'm a guy. And so I'm just speaking my mind. Like I said, if it resonates, that's that's wonderful. But if it doesn't, it's still my view, and I got to get it out there. So I don't really like this thing where people just kind of lump you in or treat you as though you're automatically as terminally online as they are. Because there's a lot of people that kind of get propped up as figureheads, and, you know, I don't really have any particular like or dislike for them. I try not to get too involved in the personality aspect because I just don't care. I don't care who you are or whatever. You're not... You know, I don't do the whole online celebrity thing. I don't want to be one. I don't want to be looked at as one. I don't want to look at other people that way. Just because somebody has a following, it doesn't mean they're an authority on anything. You know, it's the content of what you say that's important. But there are a lot of guys that are looked at as figureheads just because they have a lot of pull, and that's understandable. But I don't automatically agree with them. I don't automatically like everything they do or say. Sometimes I don't even pay attention to what they do or say. But it's like everybody in this discourse kind of has these ideas that, you know, you're in this, you know this group of people, this is who you are. It's just not the case. Like, I know some names, of course. I'm not going to, like, pretend I'm completely out of the loop. But I just don't keep up with the personalities. So I'm not sitting there rooting for some guy. Like, when people come at me and they'll say, like, Grum's this or Grum's that, I'm like, who cares? That's not me. I have nothing to do with this guy. His opinions are his own. My opinions are mine. Sometimes they probably coincide. I'm sure sometimes they don't. I don't really pay attention because, you know, that's not what I'm there for. I use Twitter in a very specific way. I guess I'm getting a little self-indulgent, but you'll have to indulge me, or I guess not. So, I'm sure some people have noticed this. I don't really use Twitter in the way that it was built. I don't do a lot of retweets. I like to put my own thoughts out there. My feed is me, okay? If I retweet something, it's like usually to help someone out a little bit, like the Maple Forest dev launched his Kickstarter. I think it looks like it's going to be an interesting game. I retweeted him. You know, want to help him get eyes on his game, things like that. I don't really retweet opinion-based stuff because I like to speak for myself, and that's not a put down towards anyone else's opinion. That's not a put down towards you know, the way other people express themselves. It's just what I like to do. I use Twitter for writing my thoughts and ideas, and so therefore my feed is a reflection of that. Do you even read this? Yes, I do, but I'm in the middle of a rant. Why? Is there something specific that you wanted to ask or say? I have no problem answering people, but, you know, mostly it's a talk show of me running my mouth. So, you know, that's where I stand on this. I don't even use likes in the traditional way. I kind of use them just to save things in the same way that I use bookmarks. So my likes are just a collection of, like, oh, here's a cool drawing. Here's a cool video game coming up. Here's some cryptid-related post or something. I use it for things I enjoy, not necessarily opinions that I like. I try to interact with people, but like I said, it gets difficult the more followers you get. So I have to be more selective in replying, or else I'll just be there all day replying to people. I don't have time for that. Oh God, no, that's not a normal thing. That's a little weird. Damn, I was too late. I think the term e-celeb is used ironically. Sometimes it is. Yeah, I mean, it is. I won't deny that. Let me take a look. Okay, so here's this was from a little while back too, but this one bugged me kinda because it's just another one of those examples of a post that it's trying to chime in on something that they clearly either don't understand or want to dismiss. And so Whatever happened to just playing games that you like or think is fun? Apparently there's some woke list out there of games you can't play. Let me guess. Final Fantasy VI is now woke because it has a mixed race female protagonist? Give me a break. This actually isn't true. Nobody has thought of Final Fantasy VI in this way except for revisionists. I appreciate your replies to me, though. I guess at some point it inevitably stops while these are the memories. I'm glad you'll keep the memories alive. No, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm too big for you now. That's not it. I genuinely appreciate the fact that people take time to comment on things that I post or like it or whatever. I really do. It's just so hard when you get like 100 replies. It's like, oh, great. Who do I reply to? What's like... I try to... Maybe this is not... I don't know if this is the best approach or not, but in some cases I try to reply to posts that misrepresent, even though I know the person replying isn't being honest. Once again, it's more of that situation where it's for the onlookers. People are saying Terra is because she's half Esper. I guess, but it's a fantasy race. Like, Esper is not a real thing. Not only that, but am I remembering the lore correctly, or didn't Espers and humans start out as like one and the same, but Espers were changed by magic? Like the gift of magic itself. It's not the situation of like where they infuse. Why is Twitter's live stream so? Is it? What's going on with it? You can come over to YouTube. Scratch point on YouTube, if it's not working well for you. Samus is mostly bird, right? Samus is mixed race. She's trans. Part bird and part Metroid. A little bit of human thrown in there, maybe not. We don't know anymore. That's another thing. That's what these guys do, though. They'll be like, oh, if Metroid came out today, the surprise that she was a female would be woke. First of all, I've stopped I abandoned that term like a while ago. I don't use it. Outside of the confines of a joke, like sometimes I'll make a joke maybe using the term, but I don't use it in serious discourse just because I don't want to. I understand other people think it's like good shorthand or whatever. That's fine. I think it's overused. I'd rather just express myself the way that I want to. But yeah, guys like this, it's really annoying because they pretend to be above the conversation, out of the drama, blah, blah, and yet they can't help but dip their toes in the most obnoxious ways possible. There's nothing about Final Fantasy VI that is like a current year, that displays current year sensibilities in the way that these people love. Not a damn thing. And that's why it's a great game. I mean, that's not the only reason why, obviously. It's a great game because it's just a quality work that includes a lot of, relatable themes, very likable characters, interesting monster designs, cool villains, cool world setting and story. All very appealing. And one of the things that I think makes it, that demonstrates this is that people from all walks of life and all beliefs, even though they misrepresent it in their analysis, enjoy it. He's never above anything. Oh boy, yeah, well, I guess we can make that joke too. Alright, I like Final Fantasy VI. I don't know what this guy's talking about. It's stupid. There's a lot of Assassin's Creed Shadow stuff that's been happening, I guess. Oh, this is a pretty interesting tidbit that I guess I haven't been able to cover on stream. I may have talked about this individual before in a different context, but this is, and it's something I've always kind of known, but this gave me another opportunity to put it out there. So apparently, as you guys who are, I guess, aware of the Assassin's Creed Shadows discourse, these people are claiming that the reception of Assassin's Creed Shadows was mostly positive in Japan. Now, isn't that interesting that the reception was supposedly positive, and yet Ubisoft issued, and very poorly, may I add, they issued a PR statement apology to the Japanese community. Now, why would they do that? Why would they feel compelled to do that if the reception was great? That's what media literacy... Oh, yes, media literacy is just... it's just a phrase that means I've misrepresented this series or game or whatever to align with my worldview 100%. And so if you don't believe it says that, you just don't understand it. You're not smart enough. You're not deep enough. You're not digging. You don't believe go-go is non-binary. So you're just a bigot with your head in the sand. All right. Anyway, back to this. So apparently a Japanese consultant and translator named Kazuma Hashimoto. Interesting name, right? What do you picture when you hear Kazuma Hashimoto? You imagine a Japanese person, like what's conjured up in your mind? Just a Japanese person, probably raised in Japan, probably speaks Japanese. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you would be wrong. This is Kazuma Hashimoto. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. I'm Kazuma, a half-Japanese trans man. I always think Trans Am whenever somebody says that. Who works in translation and journalism. I write media analysis primarily concerned with video games and Japanese pop culture. I dress like an Ayami Kojima character in my spare time and moonlight as a VTuber. Well, who would have seen that coming? So, this person, obviously, considering that it's a girl pretending to be a guy, Kazuma is likely not this person's real name. In fact, since they seem to be a fan of anime and weren't actually born in Japan, it appears to be taken from an anime character. I don't even know if Hashimoto is the family name. I don't know. I think this is funnier, so this is what I'm going to go with for now. But obviously, it's not the birth name. Okay? Supposedly, this is taken from the LinkedIn that was linked in her bio. A freelance narrative design consultant for Sweet Baby Inc. Great company. Everybody loves the Sweet Baby work. Provides consultation on various AA and AAA titles under Sweet Baby Inc. Includes work on unannounced Square Enix, Ubisoft, and Insomniac titles, alongside researching and crafting characters for upcoming titles for both new and existing IPs. Huh. Isn't that interesting? And so this is the same people, right? This is from the same company that says, "Oh, we don't really do anything. We just consult. We don't meddle in the game." It's like, first of all, that's the whole point of consulting. And second, if you're downplaying what you do so much, aren't you kind of just nullifying the point of your own existence? So yeah, they're meddling. They're obviously meddling in things that they could never create themselves. So they're taking somebody's work. They're just like localizers in that, they want to be a creative so bad, but they just don't have it in them to do something completely of their own. So they take something really cool, and then go ahead and subvert it and bastardize it and sanitize it until it more closely resembles something that their ideology would appreciate. Everybody knows this. We've seen it countless times. And yet they still call you crazy because they're just the most disingenuous people on the planet. You guys can check out the post if you want, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But also helped localize game scripts which is not good because you know that a person like this is going to manipulate it. So, as far as where this person is from, apparently their hometown or her hometown was in Alaska and now lives in California. So, that's definitely the Japanese person you want to appeal to know all about what Japanese people in Japan are thinking about things. This is the source. And this is another thing that I love about these guys is it's once again it's an appeal to authority. Here's a person with a name that sounds Japanese enough, so therefore this is the Japanese person to go to that can validate all my opinions, and then thus we can pretend that all of Japan, or at least the majority of Japan, thinks like this. And they always accuse everybody else of doing that. Yet they're always looking for these authority figures to point to be like, see guys, see bigots, Japanese people agree with us. It's like, no, that's not the case. I mean, first of all, you can find Japanese people with all kinds of different opinions, okay? So, hey, what's up? We're just stream ranting here, I guess. I'm also on YouTube in case the Twitter stuff isn't working because some people said that it's scratch point on YouTube. This is a very interesting person, very identity confused, and they always find this type of person to point to. It's always somebody that wants to rely on some percentage of heritage to pretend that they are the voice of the people. You know, it's the same thing with that Detroit Rin character. She's like, what? I don't know, a quarter Japanese or something. Blood of the samurai flowing through her veins until she got that pesky mosquito bite. And so she's the expert. She knows the will of Japan. I mean, look, obviously you can point to general trends and mindsets among people, but in the end, people are still individuals, so you're always going to find those out there with dumb opinions, much in the same way you're going to find those with good opinions. What else do we have on the agenda here? I think the last thing that I was going to get into was a little bit of more of internal drama, I guess you could say, even though I don't really like labeling it in that way. This dude that follows me has been following for a while. I've seen him here and there. I'm trying to get him on the show. I think it'd be a good conversation, an interesting conversation, because a lot of the stuff that he says doesn't really apply to me and despite insisting on it, I'm going to go to and try to find where it started. So just give me a moment here. I apologize for the dead air, or at least the air that is not very useful. Hold on, it happened a couple of days ago. I really should have pulled this up beforehand, but like I said, I got on here on a whim. And that's how we do things in this house. Okay. So this started from the Godot drama, in which they put up a post that was like, apparently game engines are woke now? Well then, we won't complain, Rainbow. Show us your hashtag WokeHot games below. Or Woko, I guess. I don't know. And I merely said that, you know, they've already been supporting this agenda for years. It's not a mystery that they would do this. You know, they put up their rainbow flying, and they got the queer game jam, or whatever the hell they want to call it. So let me go over here. Oh, this reply was hidden. Damn. They hid my reply. I don't know if I can find it since I'm blocked on top of that. All right, well, my reply was a bundle of sticks. My reply was a bundle of sticks with the little comic dialogue bubble to make it look like, you know, Godot engine was a bundle of sticks. Hardy har. I thought it was great. This guy comes in and says, you really have a fantastic neck, I think he meant knack, of these people, making these people look better and making your opponents look great. Goodness, there's a reason why I follow you, and it's not because I really necessarily agree with all of what you say. I mean, first of all, who asked? I don't expect anybody that follows me to agree with everything I say. That's just kind of insane to me. At the end of the day, people are going to have differences, no matter how small, so I wouldn't expect complete 100% compliance with my worldview. I don't need it either. I don't require outside validation to have my views. So I said no, it was hilarious in response to this. I don't know why my post isn't showing. Oh, there we go. No, it's hilarious. And he says, how? You're not going for talking, you're going for being an asshole, just like was done to you. No wonder no one understands. You're not helping. The only thing you help is your opposition. Once again, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. This just has nothing to do with what happened here. They made a stupid post. I made a jokey post in response, and now it's supposed to be some serious discourse. But I want to point something out to you that this person said, being an asshole, right? Again, I don't care if that's how you see it. I don't care if you insult me. It doesn't matter. But I just want to put a note on that for later on. So I asked him if he wanted to discuss it because, I don't really know exactly what he's referring to. It seems like he has some sort of problem that he hasn't expressed with my views, which is fine, but, let's actually talk about it. So I said, Godot Engine playing dumb as though they haven't been a vessel for the message right along with plenty of others in the modern gaming industry. It's always not happening, but simultaneously a very good thing that it is. He says, no, it's not that. Never mind. What does this mean? There's no context, really. It's not that. What's not that? Is he saying they're not a vessel for the message, despite the evidence right here? Is he saying it's not many others in the gaming industry? Like, what is he replying to? There's no explanation. It's just, I disagree, but I'm not elaborating on why. So I just posted the same thing again. He says, when, how? It's 1 a.m. This was like Saturday or something. And I wasn't asking right then and there, by the way. I said at a more reasonable time, perhaps Sunday afternoon or evening. He says, what time zone? I'm sick. I'm operating on 0 fumes and wanting to die all the time. What time is good for you? I didn't need a life story, by the way. I don't know what the relevancy of that was supposed to be. I said, if you don't feel up to it, that's fine. It's just an offer. It's my stream broadcast on YouTube and here, not very big by any means. Anytime tomorrow afternoon or evening is good for me, perhaps 6 or 7 Eastern, just to put a number out there. And this would have been Sunday. He says 6 or 7, AM or PM? Afternoon/evening equals PM. Okay, sorry, I don't know where we're going to do this. And then I said, either Discord if you have it, or I could just start a Twitter space. And then, of course, like, the rest of the night goes by, and it comes to 7:20 p.m. on Sunday. I get no replies, so I just posted crickets because he didn't show up. I mean, look, granted, he didn't necessarily say yes. But is this not a leading thing where he's like questioning, like, oh, how are we going to do this? He's making it sound like he's going to go along and do it. Some people may wonder, like, oh, why are you even talking about this? But I'm getting to that. It's important for the discourse as a whole, let's just say. So then, the next day, oh no, sorry, September 30th, which would have been the following day. We're talking about Dragon Quest stuff. The interview, somebody asked what regulations they were referring to. I said, the beginning of the video is referencing Zero. Then they move on to Western influence. Video is linked in the bottom, but didn't play. Even if not Zero is the big one, and y'all are tweeting about the health of a society and blaming LGBT stuff when that's not us. It's extremists. And let's not say our side doesn't stink either. Not caring about mean words, I'm sorry, but a death threat is bad. Oh, okay, so unfortunately a little bit of context is missing here. Because he went on multiple thread tirades about how Godot was experiencing harassment, and I was somehow complicit in that because I posted a bundle of sticks. It's just this weak guilt by association thing. I'm not involved with everybody replying to that post. That's just an absurd assertion. And I said I don't care about mean words online, because I don't. I've not complained about quote-unquote harassment. When somebody sends me a message that's like insults or wishing me death or something like that, I either have fun with it and laugh at it, or I ignore it. Because what actually happens when somebody does that? First of all, I think it's hilarious that I can make a stranger so angry that they want me dead. That's funny to me. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's funny to me. So I don't think getting all emotionally outraged about it really does anything. So I just said I don't care about mean words. You're not going to, you're not going to shame me into caring about what comments some stupid game engine account gets. I don't care. It's not my problem. Maybe they shouldn't be antagonistic if they don't want to receive antagonistic replies. That's my take. So then I said, what are you going on about? What happened to showing up for the stream? Nice work conveniently showing up the next morning to continue the spam replying. Because like I said, at this point, he had gone in multiple threads to argue about the same thing that I already said wasn't even, my position. I didn't say yes, and I was very sick, okay? I'm struggling to keep sane. All I said was, it shows. Because at this point, I'm a little bit, patience are kind of wearing thin. It's like, I've put myself out there to talk to this guy genuinely, even though he's misrepresenting my stuff, because I figured, I recognize the account. He's followed me for a long time. We'll see if he'll actually talk it out and listen. So he said, well, and that's the other reason. Why would I want to be on a show when you act like this? When you overreact to the tiniest shit? More people would be opposed to censorship if you weren't the very kind of person getting upset at the joke from a game engine, you snowflake. Now, I want you guys to think about the discourse that you've seen with this guy so far. Did I insult this man? Did I call him names? I believe it was he who started the interaction with the whole asshole comment, which, once again, completely fine to do that. But then to get uppity about a perceived insult in return? This is the kind of nonsense where it's just somebody who's trying to police the way that you talk, the way that you interact. And for some reason, it doesn't apply to them. And that's why I want to talk about this. I want this person directly, voice to voice, to have a conversation where they have to prove what they're saying. They can't just rely on talking past me on Twitter. I want to see what their exact grievances are, because none of this really explains anything. This is just a person that he's kind of conjured up in his mind to talk against. Like, oh, now you're harming anti-censorship. You're making people support censorship because you're not being nice enough. Are you kidding me? This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. So I said, aren't you the one overreacting by going off on this days-long tirade because I posted a meme image? Anyway, if that's your excuse, then you shouldn't be typing at me either. You're the one outraged by my joke. Get some self-awareness, please. Said, you're the one that wasn't concerned with abuse when I posted it. Once again, trying to make me care about mean comments that some random account is receiving. Why am I obligated to care about this? I've never have. I never will. And now you go, no, you. That's not what happened. You and this person are no different. In fact, I think pro-censorship people would be less in number if you weren't such a childish person complaining on Twitter. Now, think about this. I have a grown man ranting about me not being nice enough, but I'm the child here in this situation, right? That's good. I like that. That's funny. But you'll note that a lot of this is just emotional. It's not really, there's no content. It's just like, you're not being virtuous enough. You're not whining about the same things I'm whining about. That makes you a bad person, and it makes people support censorship. That's not true. It's not true at all. I still want to talk to this guy. So hopefully he'll respond at some point and actually show up for a stream. I didn't really want to have to, talk with somebody not being able to answer. But at the same time, he's not really speaking to me. He's speaking to some caricature. I just want to try. Yeah, so, I showed him the insult thing, and he says, well, let's look at the context and take a look. But yeah, I couldn't make the stream. I'm sick, and honestly, you said I can see that when I'm having issues with keeping sane. That's not a very friendly, kind way to invite someone. Some call it repulsive. Now he's rewriting history because the invite was from a few days ago. So he had already called me an asshole, and I still invited him to just have a normal conversation. Then again, saying mean words and saying OP is a, well, bundle of sticks, I just said it wasn't productive at all. It's shitty. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but posting a meme image isn't supposed to be productive. I don't know who that's news to. That's not supposed to be productive. I wasn't looking to have a debate with the Godot engine account. I was just mocking their post. That's it. I'm allowed to do that, guys. I'm allowed to have fun. I'm tired of this this idea where it's like, if you joke around about stuff, nobody will take you serious when you're actually being serious, as though people are just one-note beings with no personality. Like I'm just supposed to be a robot on Twitter and only talk about serious things. Only be serious. I can never make jokes, never have any fun. It's always got to be serious. I think that I do a very good job of separating my jokes from my serious opinions. Now, sometimes I will throw in jokes in my serious opinions, and I think it's pretty obvious if you have slight reading comprehension when and where that is. I'm not here to hold people's hands or coddle their emotions, okay? That's not what I'm here for. So, I don't like this whole idea of like you're ruining the movement. It's stupid. I've never said I'm in a movement. That's your perception. That's your projection. If you think that you're representing some sort of movement, then you act the way, you conduct yourself the way that you believe would be beneficial to that. I don't need to do that. I don't need to follow that. This is just behavior policing, which is actually extremely gay. I'm sure the fact that I said that is out of bounds to this individual as well. But let's just cover one thing real quick. Now, he's saying that it's crappy of me to make these kind of jokes and whatnot, right? But if you look at his bio, he's claiming that he's founding his own religion, and then only bigots disagree. He, they, it, that bastard / that cunt. Now, what is he doing there? I would say he's mocking the idea of preferred pronouns. Now, granted, I think preferred pronouns should be mocked incessantly, but that's not his position. According to him, we need optics. We need to, have this decorum so that the opposition won't have any ammunition. No, look, no matter what I say, no matter the way I express it, the people who vehemently disagree with me always villainize me. I don't know if people pick up on this, but I tend not to insult people. I tend, unless they've done it first and I'm just kind of like dicking around, okay, obviously. But when I'm replying to somebody who's being genuine, when somebody's just trying to have a normal conversation, I don't insult people. I don't even use swear words on Twitter, for the most part. Now, if anybody has picked up on this, I would say that that's a pretty good indication that the level at which I conduct myself is more than good enough. You can tell this guy never played an RPG before. Yeah, see, that's another thing where people were like, you're ruining the movement by making this joke. It's like, no, dude, I'm making a completely separate post. Like, it wasn't even on my main timeline. It was a response to somebody else. And by the way, that character ended up being outed as a diversity edition for the Western audience. So that wasn't even necessarily the commentary I was making at the time. I was legitimately just making a joke. And then it turned out to be the case anyway. It was a Eoden Chronicle DEI hire, okay? So get off it. And the crazy part about that is that people were bringing that up who supposedly align, who would claim they align with me. I don't know to what degree, because I honestly just go by the assumption that no one is aligning with me, and I'll just say what I want. I feel like that's the best way to go about it. But I had people that, generally agree with me bringing this up and saying, oh, the bad guys are going to use this. The bad guys are going to use this. Well, maybe you idiots should stop posting it in my comments on every unrelated post. Like, common sense, right? You're the only one pulling it up. So, yeah. That's my standard. That's the way I conduct myself. And this whole idea of never being able to have any fun because you also have serious opinions, it's absolutely absurd to me. I'm going to continue to do things the way I want to do them just because that's who I am. And anybody who's going to pull up something completely unrelated to dismiss you is going to do that anyway. They're always going to find a way. No matter how reasonable I am, no matter how well I explain myself, there's always somebody who's just like, no, you're actually just being some istophobe, whatever. And they just reduce the whole thing to that. So there is 0 point in putting on a show for people that I don't even respect. Now look, I'm not saying that you can't have any standards. Like, obviously I'm not out there threatening people or anything crazy like that. I'm making serious points. Sometimes I'm making jokes. It's my sense of humor. I don't have to stifle that because you have this false idea that if you just be robotic enough, the people that are complete brainwashed ideologues are suddenly going to come on your side and see the light. That's not how it works. A lot of those people are beyond gone, and they will never change. In fact, I think the only way that some of them would change is if society as a whole restructured itself and they suddenly felt that they had to fall in with the in crowd. And even then, they'd probably do it begrudgingly because they're so ideologically motivated. So, I ended it off with, asking him to... I guess I'll just read through it really quick, even though you guys can see it. I said, yes, that's what I said, because the way you're reacting to an image that was obviously meant to be funny, it wasn't supposed to be productive. I was making a joke. As I said, you pulled out the insults first, so to then complain that I'm not being nice enough to you is absurd, especially when I invited you to have an actual discussion and had been staying on point. You don't have to find it funny, but that was clearly the intent. I will, once again, extend an invite to have a productive discussion about whatever your grievances are on my stream. You can bring specific posts you want to address. I have zero interest in insulting you, yelling at you, etc. If you are truly seeking conversation and understanding, then there is no harm in accepting. Not to mention, if you feel slighted in some way, you're free to drop out anytime. What I'm not going to do is go back and forth over this for days. Would you like to talk and settle it so you can move on or no? Of course, he never replied. But then, then I wake up this morning, and of course, he's there in my replies, talking about this stuff. Now, he's doing this thing where he's like balanced, so this guy that called me that I was acting retarded, he's like, oh, can you not be an asshole? I'm sorry, but there's a better way for both of... See, there we go. This both of you stuff to convey your message. Any harassment against the localizer is wrong, but the fact is there's a discrepancy. I don't think I've promoted... This is the crazy part. Where have I said anything about harassment? Nowhere. I don't care about the localizer's feelings, okay? What I care about is demonstrating a pattern. I'm pointing out the differences in the script, and then I'm pointing out that the head of the project, or at least one of the people working on the project, is ideologically motivated or matches a certain, archetype that does these things, okay? Your inability to have a basic amount of pattern recognition is not my problem. It doesn't mean harassment. Okay, and look at this. So somebody calls me a retard, which again, fine. You can do that all you want, all the insults you want. It's a free fair game. I just posted the dancing crab from the Mario Brothers arcade game. That's it. That's all I did. I didn't insult. I didn't argue. I just posted a crab. Crab gif. Got a lot of likes. Everybody loves the crab. So then this dude's reply, he chimes in, this isn't helping your case. Now, what does this mean? I didn't realize I had to make a case towards somebody who's just there to be inflammatory. I said, that's the beauty of it. I don't need a case towards people who have nothing of value to say. Like, once again, you can look at my replies with people. If somebody comes along and has a legitimate argument, a legitimate grievance, I do my best to reply to them in kind. Sometimes, even if they're rude, I'll just reply like a normal person because it doesn't do anything to me. I don't care if you're mad at me. I don't know you. So that was that. True, but okay, so here we go. Like I said, it's just spam reply and random posts. So this guy, this RNG show, replied about this. I don't see the issue here and think this is people looking to be offended because they don't like someone. I'm sorry, I've played the demo twice, and these lines are delivered fine. It's not like she's saying, did you assume my gender? I think a lot of y'all... You guys notice anytime somebody says y'all, there's a retarded take coming? Are losing the plot and becoming more and more like the people you hate. First of all, I've not proclaimed to hate anybody either. You think I just hate random people online? No. Wasted emotion. So, do you all want to have fun anymore, or do you y'all want to be offended? I said, there's nothing here to indicate offense, and I'm not interested in these silly you're being just like X arguments. If you don't see any issue, that's your prerogative. I'm here to share the differences, and people can make up their own minds. And so then I posted what I believe to be my good localization summary of my stance. I also talked to this guy elsewhere. I think anybody who is following me and maybe hasn't read it before should go read this thread, because if you don't fully know where I'm coming from on localization issues, this will help you understand. I want it to be clear that although ideological inserts are a big problem in localization, it's not the core issue. It's not my sole issue. For me, the core issue is accuracy. Okay, I want it to be as close as possible to the Japanese version. That's what I want. Now, that's regardless of whether it's a dumb joke, a meme, or anything else, political included. But political is not the issue for me. It's one of them. The core issue is the fact that localizers don't feel the need to adhere to the original version of the game. That's the main problem. That's what led to the ideological inserts. And a lot of people miss that forest for the trees. And I get tired of explaining it over and over again to people who just don't seem to get it. Like, a lot of people seem to follow me because of the quote-unquote anti-woke stuff, I guess. I don't label it that way. You can label it that way if you want. But for me, that's not the main problem with localization. I understand why they may have that misconception, but it needs to be understood that that is not my core issue. So you're not going to only see me post about localizations that have political inserts. You're going to see me post about things that I see as inaccurate to the source material, regardless of what it is. So I made that huge thread about my stance on localization to kind of just, here's a catch-all, read that, you'll understand where I'm coming from. So I did show that guy that. This guy I muted, that's funny. It's some reply guy who just repeats themselves over and over. It's someone that I've argued with at length before, and then I realized this person is they're just there to try to get you to reply as much as possible. They don't actually want to understand your point. What's up? We're just going over some localization stuff. We're going over a little bit of stupid Twitter drama that's loosely related to localization. So, I know I kind of got off on a tangent with this RNG guy, but we'll go with it for a little bit more, and then I'll go back to the church dude. So he says to this other guy, I just don't see what I'm supposed to be offended by. It's basically the same outcome, just slightly different, devoid of tone. What's that even... I don't even think that's the proper sentence for that. It's like reading a joke with the delivery. I think he means without the delivery, but that's not relevant, okay? So I said, no one asked you to be offended. That isn't even the point. You're the only one here making it about personal offense. The comparisons are right there. If you don't see an issue with adding personality traits and such not intended in the original, again, that's your own conclusion, as no one is going to convince you otherwise. Okay, here's another guy. Many people, myself included, he follows me too, so I don't know what he doesn't understand. Really enjoyed the demo. It feel like folks are telling us to get offended or show ill will to Atlas when it's one of the better demos I've played in the past 10 years. This really isn't a bad translation, and folks who haven't played it are nitpicking. Okay, first of all, playing doesn't change the quality of the translation. There shouldn't be a discrepancy. But he's also not getting it. See, this is what I mean. He's saying to get offended, but that's not the issue. So I said, listen, Steve, enjoying the demo has nothing to do with showing the difference in scripts. Enjoy the game as much as you like. I like plenty of games that have had translation issues. Because games can be quality in spite of the bad writing inflicted on them by localizers. I don't know who doesn't know that, but just putting it out there. It seems the offense here is that you think you're being told to dislike something you enjoy, which is not the case. A game can be good, but have a not-so-great translation. Somebody chimes in with, I can't believe people are this retarded. Honestly, neither can I, because this is another slight tangent, but reading comprehension is dead, man. It is dead. Gone. Dead and buried. Like, oh, man. I don't proclaim to be some sort of genius, but I know that I read and I comprehend what I read and I write and express myself clearly, okay? So to even misconstrue this as being told to dislike the game when it's just speaking about the translation, no. How do you come to this conclusion? It's completely wrong. It's absurd. If I think a game is bad, I'll just flat out say, this game is not good for X, Y, and Z. But we're talking about translation. In fact, if you care about good games, that's even more of a reason to care about the quality of the translation. Now look, I'm somebody of the opinion that even a bad game should have a decent translation, but that, like, even more so if you love it. Why wouldn't you want to see it conveyed properly? It is mind-blowing that people are just like, turn off brain and consume, and then they have the nerve to say that they're quote-unquote media literate. No, you're slop literate. That's it. Okay. Let me see if I can get back to where we were, because like I said, we got off on a tangent there. Where is the church man? I gotta go back through all this crap. I like how this guy just announces that he blocks everybody whenever they say y'all. That's funny to me. Where are you, sir? See, this is what I mean, where you end up getting, like, when a post takes off, you take a ton of notifications and replies, and it just, like, you can't keep up with it. Okay, so yeah, I guess we're back. We're still on the RNG dude. I actually wouldn't mind having him on the show to talk too, just because he's talking around the issue and then acting like nobody else gets it. They're fine with slop if it's pushing their ideology. I mean, that's true. That is definitely true. Okay, he's always saying he doesn't see the issue. If you play the game, you would know how silly this is because you don't get the tone. That's what y'all keep doing. It's like what they do. See, this is what I mean, these false equivalences. It's like, you're just like them. These, like, hardcore, I want to come off as centrist and fair types, the only thing they have in their arsenal is, you're just like the people you dislike. How about you demonstrate that? How about you show us some evidence instead of just asserting it? It's not the same at all. One side, even though, like I said, I hate doing this, one side wants the accurate translations, the other side wants garbage. How is that the same? So I said, oh wait, it's line reading a joke and not hearing the delivery. That's why I'm annoyed, because it's showing a vast majority of people haven't played the damn demo. I said, the point you're missing is that the joke doesn't belong there because it's not in the original script. And so then he shifts the goalposts again. And the issue isn't that big of one, man. So he admits that it exists, but now it's not an issue. Considering it's still conveying the same point, agenda-free. Here we go with that agenda term again. Agenda is not the only issue with localization. The issue is you still sound like some ranting madman to normies by showing something like this and getting upset. Now see, this is a person that is projecting emotions. I haven't said anything about being upset. I haven't said anything about being mad. I haven't said anything about being personally offended, but yet you post about it and that means you're mad. So what does that say about his emotional state? You know, it's all just emotional projection. Because again, it's not like she's going off about Trump being evil or pronouns. Real actual stuff we see that as issue. You make everything a level 10, people tune you out and stop caring. That's not what's happening here though. Also, you didn't read my point and saw my joke and saw joke and went, yeah, I'll respond to that. You clearly don't understand my point either, so it is what it is. I like this you don't understand as he completely doesn't understand why I brought up the joke part. I read your point and responded the way I did because you're making an argument that is missing the issue. Agendas aren't the only problems with localization. Posting various degrees of inaccurate localization is not calling everything a level 10. That's nonsense you made up. I posted the thread of my complete stance on localization, and it has remained consistent. You misunderstand my stance. It's not based only on agendas. It's about being accurate to the original script. If that's not your standard, that's your choice. It doesn't mean other people are automatically wrong for advocating for general accuracy. Thread below. And of course, when I posted my exact stance, I no longer received a reply about my point. So... And then Steve chimes in again with, dude, all localizations do this. If you go with a direct one-to-one translation, it isn't going to have any comedy. Atlas characters are often funny or perky. It's okay to change the wording to reflect this if you don't change the core of what's being said. Japanese writing has comedy too. It doesn't need it added where it wasn't intended. This isn't difficult to understand. It's like these people see a character, maybe tell a joke once somewhere in the story, and they're like, oh, that's the funny character. Therefore, it's okay to make all of their dialogue just so zany and wacky. And you know what? It actually aligns with what I was talking about earlier, where people are trying to police my behavior online on Twitter with the way I interact, where they're like, if you make these jokes, people aren't going to take you seriously. It's because they seem to think that people are just like these one-note beings where their personality is like, oh, you're the funny guy. That's all you are. That's all you ever do. Oh, you're the serious guy who talks about localization. That's who you are. That's all you ever do. Like, no. People are multifaceted. That's what having a personality is about. Holy Reddit. Okay. Let me see. I know that church guy was here one more time, and I wanted to just point that out because it was related to what we were talking about earlier with the whole larger thing of, who is an issue and who is not regarding these conversations. Okay, so here it is. When I mentioned about not being offended, he says, true, but usual suspects with the combination... The combination of what? The combination of showing that usual suspects, as in people with a specific worldview, tend to treat localizations this way? I mean, that's just true. Why does it offend you? Or why does that make me a bad person for pointing that out? Once again, it's pattern recognition. If you experience the same thing 100 times, it's reasonable to think you're going to experience it 101 when you see the same type of person. Could you be wrong? Sure, you could be, but it's more than likely that you're not. It's not hard to comprehend. It's completely reasonable, and yet we treat it as though it's not. Which is actually, if you think about it, it's the basis for all this ist and phobia stuff. Then I found out that for whatever reason, this dude is now, posting me on his Medium. Which, let me see, is this... I don't care about this death threat stuff. I'm whining about threats online. It was something about localization. Okay, here we go. For a guy that won't just show up and talk to me on stream, he sure has a lot to say about me. Which is weird. I don't get it. He put my post on here and says... I despise, misspelled by the way, this person's misinterpretation of the Godot situation, which we went over earlier, by the way, and I don't see how I misinterpreted it all, or even really had all that much to say on the topic. I made one post, I made one joke, and I was out. I haven't been having a days-long argument about the Godot situation, because I largely don't care about it, and I expect all these companies to have the same ideology, or all these organizations, or whatever you want to label them as. And some of their politic and beliefs are odious. But that's still not going to address the core issue that, yes, it appears there exists some changing of the character's language to even change how they act. I'd love to know what my politics and beliefs are that are so bad. I have ideas, but I want to hear them from the source. And that's another reason why I want to talk to people like this, because I want them to clearly articulate what their issues are. for entertainment at large, and so that I can put my position out there for the onlookers. But I think that is mostly what I had to go over. Like I said, I'm trying to get this guy to come on the show, so if I can manage to get him to accept an invite, that'll probably be the next stream. I think it'll be fun. I don't have any plan to go, to just like go off on the guy and have this, major blowout. I really do genuinely want to hear what he has to say, and I want to shut down these stupid assertions about like, oh, you're ruining the movement and this and that, because I think they're ridiculous. And I think if I can have a direct conversation where someone can't just talk past me, that I can put that out there in a way that is not refutable by the nonsense that they're putting forth, and they'll have to reflect and think on their position. Now, does that mean they're going to change it? Probably not. You guys have seen how some of my other, confrontation streams have gone before. Not well. Well, actually, I think they've been great because they're hilarious, but in terms of getting along with the other person, it's like it starts out okay, then it gets a little heated, then it gets a little crazy, then before you know it, I'm saying slurs on stream. What are you gonna do? That's just how it goes. All right, guys, it was really nice that so many people showed up for a impromptu stream that I had zero plans for. It's cool that people still show up when I do these things, even though I don't do them consistently. I appreciate it. I might try to do them more often, but I'm not sure. A lot of my issue has just been I've been getting tired really early, and so I've been going to bed like a little bit of an old man. Or I'll feel really tired, kind of like the time when I want to go live, like 9 o'clock or something like that, and then I'll lay down to go to sleep early, and then I'll end up laying there until like midnight anyway, and I'm like, damn, I should have streamed. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I know a couple of parts of this were a little bit of too much inside baseball, but I think it was important to talk about just in the sense of the larger topic of like how people should conduct themselves when discussing these things, which is another thing I'd like to address with this guy if he does show up for an interview stream or whatever you want to call it. All right, everybody have a good evening, and